Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Chalsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Welcome to At the Show podcast, presented to you by Sadistic Penguin Studios. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Mr. Tony Chalsa, aka Sugar Maggie Burt. How you doing, Mr. Burt?
Doing good. Excited for tonight, my friend. Very excited.
Extremely excited. I know we talk about this movie like all the time. It's one of the first instances of me meeting you was our engagement over this movie and love for it. So I'm very, very excited to get into it. I'm also very excited about the new segment we got going on today with one of our fellow Penguins, Roxy, an ass member. We're looking forward to that.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be really good. Anytime somebody can see a movie for the first time, and especially the movie, we're starting with tonight, and it's always exciting to hear. It's
definitely, my friend.
Things. Yeah,
definitely. But let's get into our first segment, my friend, and roll right into what we've been watching.
That's a me. And also, what were you just watching?
So, my man, Tony, what have you been watching?
Ooh, I've been watching a couple different movies here this week in the midst of having what I would call a pretty crazy week. I thought to cool down, I'd watch some Bad Lieutenant with Harvey Keitel. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that movie.
No, I have not seen it.
It's very, 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 very gratuitous violence, and well, it's not usually what someone would put on if they're having a bad day, but me enjoying movies with, violence and Harvey Keitel, it was definitely a very, very awesome movie. Worth checking out. Looked at a lot by a lot of film people as like a precursor to some of that Tarantino type stuff. And then the second movie I watched was Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. Have you ever seen that one?
Jimmy the Saint. Yes, I've seen it a long time ago.
I watched it for the first time again in a long time this past weekend. And I remember the first time I watched it was when it first came out, like in 95 or 96. And it was, it harkens me back to a time where, like, yes, the movie isn't as good as like a Goodfellas. But it's like this tier of a movie that isn't really made anymore. It's solid. It's got a lot of good actors in it. Everyone from Christopher Walken to, of course, Andy Garcia, who's good in it. And definitely worth checking out if you get an opportunity again.
Yeah, Andy Garcia is in a lot of like movies that are not really, I would say commercially like popular, that haven't been advertised as popular. Like he's in a movie, we reviewed it before, called Confidence. Yeah, it's a heist movie that's really good with Edward Burns. Yeah. He's also in a movie called The Lost City, which is about Meyer Lansky and in Cuba, when the mob went to Cuba, which is actually really good too. A little slow burn, but very good movie that's not really talked about enough.
And that's it too. I was thinking maybe somewhere down the road we can even do something like just on Andy Garcia, because he's got many. He's got this one I love with Michael Douglas called Black Rain.
Dude, I just told I think I told Brian about that movie where he does the matador with the guy on the motorcycle.
Yes,
it's a great movie.
Another, just one more, and then we'll move on, because I can talk about Andy all night. There's one just watched the other day. It's one with it's him and Uma Thurman. It's called Jennifer 8. It's like a thriller from like the 90s.
Another good movie.
But again, Andy Garcia, man, even in the sometimes awful, last week we talked about Godfather 3, he does an okay part. His role isn't what makes the movie bad. He always does a good job.
He definitely wasn't the worst part of that movie.
No, but what have you been watching, my man?
So I saw two newer movies to me. The first one I saw was Sisu. I think that's how you pronounce it. which is a Swedish film, and it's about a Norwegian, basically gold hunter who was a retired colonel who basically finds some gold. This is based in World War II, and he finds gold, but to get to gold to the bank, he has to go through the retreating Nazis as they exited out of the country. And basically, they find out he has gold, and they hunt him down. And it's just like it's very low dialogue, which is kind of weird, but tons of action.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw the cover, I mean, just itself, and first I thought it was Mads Mikkelsen in this movie in the front cover, but it isn't, and that's what's cool is that it's a pretty unknown cast, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty.
I mean, unless
cast
you're
and
familiar with those movies.
foreign actors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
But it's very good. I recommend it. It's very gruesome in terms of the kills and whatnot, but it's a very good movie. It was like it's kind of reminds you of John Wick based in the 40s. Basically, it's the character he plays. And there is a dog in the movie, which is funny. His horse is in the movie. So it kind of has a lot of similarities. But definitely, if you haven't seen that one, check that one out. That one's on Prime. And another movie I saw on Prime, which I bought and then realized it was free, but I bought it, was The Equalizer 3 with Denzel. Was a big fan of the first two. I really liked the first one and the second one. This movie actually has been based in Italy.
okay.
And anything with Denzel, I'll watch. This movie, it's not the best of the three, I would say. I really like number two, but I really enjoyed it. A lot of action, good story, like ruthless characters, and Denzel going in there to set them straight, which I really liked.
I'm right with you. Anything with Denzel again, you could sign me up, and I as soon as I get an opportunity, I'm definitely going to check both of these out because they both sound awesome.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen them, check them out. Believe they're both on Prime. I think The Equalizer will actually be on Netflix. So that might, if you have Netflix, you can watch it. But definitely two decent, good movies for action. If you just want to turn off your brain and watch action, those are definitely two films to check out.
Very awesome. Very cool.
So that's what we've been watching. Let us know what you've been watching at the show pod on the Twitters, or let us know at Little Yumper or the Sugar Baggy on Twitters.
Yeah, please do.
Yep. But now we're going to get into a new segment. So we want to try some new things this year, and we decided to try some new segments. This particular segment is with one of our good friends, Roxy, who doesn't really see many new movies or many old movies. So she watched a recently Oscar-winning movie that she's never seen for the first time. And we kind of want to see how she liked it or disliked it. But let's get into her segment.
Popular movies of all time, sir. What were you thinking? What the hell was that?
Roxy, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, so good to see you guys. How have you been?
Good. How have you been?
Fantastic. Almost a little life-changing after this movie, actually.
I can imagine.
So for those listening to the pod, Roxy for the first time saw the 1990 film Silence of the Lambs. A little background on the movie: it was directed by Jonathan Demme, who also directed Philadelphia, The Manchurian Candidate, and he actually won an Oscar for this movie. In fact, the film won Oscars for Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter, even though he was only on screen time for 16 minutes. Jodie Foster also won for Best Actress, and 2 other Oscars for Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay, making a total of 5 altogether. This movie is based off a book of the same name by Richard Harris, and it made a whopping $272 million at a $19 million budget. So, Rox, first question I want to ask you about this is, when did you first hear about this movie?
Oh, God, a long time ago. It's been at least 10, 15 years. My dad really liked reciting some of the fava bean stuff. Like when he would get just food that had beans in it. That was always one of the lines he would say. So the movie in itself is very quotable. Not obviously when you consider the context of the lines, it's a little different, but like I often hear people quote that movie. So it's been something I've been aware of for what it's worth for quite some time.
Nice. It's actually by Thomas Harris. I said Richard Harris, who's an actor. But that's for you, Rox.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans. lights and a nice Chianti.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, there was a little bit, not a lot, like a little bit recently, but like, is he saying Chianti incorrectly? Like, isn't it? It's Chianti, right? Isn't that what people were saying? And I don't know if that's intentional or what, but for a while I kept hearing he doesn't even say it right or something like that.
Me and the English language are not a good companion, so I would not know.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big wine person, so if anybody knows, shout us out in the comments. I have no idea. Unless Tony, you know.
No, I am not familiar. I'm right with you. That is not me.
Brian says he's testing her, so maybe. I don't know. She's a country girl.
I can see that for sure.
So did you ever read any of the books? No.
To be honest with you, I didn't even know it was a book. So I was going to ask you if you've read the book, either of you guys, and how you would compare the movie to the book.
So I read all three. I've read Dragon, which is the one that came out. This one, and then Hannibal Rising. Actually, all four. Hannibal as well. They're all very good. I think the book and the movie actually play really, really well off each other. There's like little tidbits and what they're not included in the movie. They're in the book, but it's very, very well acted. And I think they picked the perfect Hannibal Lecter for the movie. Hannibal, I think, in the movie, as far as Hannibal, the movie itself, it's not as good, and you could tell like this movie wasn't that great. But the book is excellent. I would definitely check out the book for that one.
That's awesome. I will definitely do that. I'm big into those, like the more thrillery, supernatural, and like there's not anything overly supernatural about this book, but just like the thriller, mystery kind of stuff. That stuff's always good. One of my favorite books that I read, which I think was actually just made about the movie, but I've seen the movie too, is Constantine.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed both the movie and the book for that. Really
that's a.
So
that's
I will probably enjoy this book.
Yeah, actually, for Constantine, Matt Reeves did a series on, I think it was NBC. Tony, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, you are right.
Which did it only had like a 12 episode run, but it's really good. And Matt Reeves actually portrays the character like more closer to the comic because he's a blonde hair, blue eyed Englishman than the Keanu Reeves, but both are very good.
Yeah, that Keanu Reeves I think does really well with that movie. The fact that he can, and obviously this is a little portion, but I haven't seen many movies of his, but the movies I have seen, it's been Constantine and like Bill and Ted. The fact that he can go right, like do different extremes in terms of acting just speaks volumes to his talent.
So what when you were did you just kind of come across it on TV, or was it something you've been wanting to watch for a while, or what made you come to this?
It's definitely been something like on my radar. I watched it with CPG. Like I'm biased about hanging out with him, but I love watching movies with him because as somebody who is impatient about movies, I often ask like a lot of questions during the movie because if I'm watching a movie, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to read the Wikipedia page because I'm not necessarily concerned about what happens. I like to see how it happened.
Yeah, that's honestly, I'm a lot like that too.
And so with CPG, he'll just answer all of my questions. He doesn't make me like wait or just be like, you'll just see. He just answers it. So that in itself made me want to watch it more because I asked him about 1,700 questions before we watched it and then eventually just decided to watch it. But it's not like if I say I have sat down and watched a movie, it is almost always with somebody else. There's very few, if any, times that I'm going to watch a movie by myself. There's just nothing
that gets you that. Hey, that's totally okay. But you did enjoy watching this one the first time?
Absolutely. This is a great movie. It's not, when I say a movie isn't like, it's probably not a movie I'll watch again, that doesn't mean it wasn't good. Yeah. It means that I felt like I got everything out of this movie that I wanted to.
Well, yeah, it's not the type of movie that after you've had a long day, let's throw on Silence of the Lambs again to make me feel better. You know?
Didn't you say in the pre-show that whatever movie you like to put on after you had a long day?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's for me, I mean, I because unfortunately that's just who I am. But I get most people. This isn't the movie that you're like. This isn't the Anchor Man, the one that you're going to just keep putting on to get the laughs. No, I agree.
It's probably not a movie that I'll watch like ever again. And I say that because I genuinely got just so much out of this viewing
Mhm.
that there's not really any need to like go back and rediscover or watch it again. And for me, that means it was really good because like if I'm watching a movie a second time, it's either because I didn't understand it the first time or there's like pieces that I missed and I almost feel like it's an obligation to fully understand the movie. This
Gotcha.
one was just really cut and dry, knew exactly what was going on. The acting was astounding. So like to me, taking it in for the first time, like I'm already up here with it. Watching it again will just kind of, I think, because then I'll nitpick stuff and it's just I'd rather have this like really high like rating for it in my head. And I'm good with that.
Definitely get that.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way when it comes to like seeing movies. At home, I'll watch them by myself, but when it comes out to like going to the theater, I usually go with somebody. I'm not really a person that always likes to go to the theater by themselves. That's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, it really depends, I think, on like what the movie is too. Like, for me personally, like I like Barbie, for example, I saw in the theater earlier this year. And like I don't think I would have enjoyed it that much if I saw it by myself. But then like even though we went with an awesome group, you know, you guys were obviously there when we went to see the Indiana Jones movie. Like to me, that's a good movie to see in a group also
Yeah.
because there's so much ability to discuss and stuff. But like I went and saw The Whale with a couple of my friends, and that was considering the nature of the movie, that probably would have been better as a solo movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not saying I didn't want to hang out with them, but just like
Taking in those type of emotions and then you leave
Mhm.
it. Yeah, no, I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
exactly.
Yeah, definitely like The Whale is definitely a solo movie. I remember A Beautiful Mind. I went on a date with it was in high school. It was my high school girlfriend, and then we double dated. It's probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Personally, it's very boring to me. But I just remember like trying to fall asleep. I was falling asleep during it, and like the girl that we were with loved the movie, and she was like, "Oh my god, that was so good!" And I just didn't want to tell her it was really bad. I was just like, "Oh yeah, it was okay."
I've seen like 5 movies by myself. 4 of them happened like before I was 21. And one of them, and the one that's happened since was like 3 summers ago. I was just like my head hurt. And I'm like, you know what won't make my head hurt if I go see the Meg by myself. It was like a 11 p.m. $5 showing of the Meg with the giant shark. And I'm like, you know what? This is mindless. I'm
I
okay.
love that. Yeah, you can just
No,
zone
but
out.
that's you know, that's what it is. You know, I get it.
I have to ask because you guys are so into movies. Have you ever walked out of a movie?
To be honest, no, I haven't. I've seen some pretty bad ones. I just figured I paid for it, I'll just finish it.
Sure. So
Um,
what then
mm,
considering that, what is a movie that if you like would have been the one to get you the closest then I guess to actually walking out?
to be honest with you, Beautiful Mind.
Okay.
Reason being is because it was just so long. Yeah, it wasn't a horrible movie. It was just one of those movies that you thought was gonna end, and it kept going.
Right.
So,
Okay, I
um
think all movies should be
mhm.
90 minutes. So
Yeah, I think it depends. Like I had this talk with my brother like recently about how, he said a good movie can be under 2 hours, which I agree, but sometimes I think if you give it a little time, it just depends on how the movie's presented. Because there's some movies that can be 3 hours long that you don't know are 3 hours long that just like flow like nicely. Like from what I'm hearing, Killers of the Flower Moon is that way.
Yeah.
It flows nicely to where you don't realize it's been 3 hours, it's a 3-hour long
Mhm.
movie. But there are movies that should be shortened that scenes shouldn't be in. But I mean, to whoever, it's up to you how you want to view it.
Absolutely. Yeah, like that Indiana Jones movie that we saw, I think that could have been cut down.
Oh, definitely.
But like it was those are the types of movies, like the types of movies that Tony was saying he likes action movies, all that kind of stuff. Like those are the kind of movies that are going to bring me in if there's like it sounds sadistic, but like a lot of violence. We're in the right. That's why I joined the pen. But like if it's violent but not gory, it can't be gory. I can't do that. So like Saw and like Terrifier and those, like I haven't seen
Uh-huh.
them and I probably never will. But like, well, Terrifier was on at HBI, like HBIC's place, and we were all watching it. And it's like that to me isn't like
Gore.
that's just like gore porn. And so
Yeah, Dougie's wife and my wife were watching it, and she was like,
yeah,
"Yeah." I was telling Jen, like, "What is this?"
what are you doing?
Yeah.
My goal, and it's my goal for movies for a long time is it's like the music thing, a completionist. Like I've tried to see everything. So
Mhm.
like I would come over and me, you, and CPG could watch Pretty Woman just so, and we would laugh because we're three of us are sitting watching Pretty Woman, and you wouldn't think three of us would be sitting there watching Pretty Woman just to see our reactions to the movie, because that's sometimes movies, that's what it's about. What emotions are you bringing out? Like this movie, Silence of the Lambs, the types of emotions that it brought out in the characters were just, quite a lot.
Oh yeah, I haven't. I couldn't, respectfully to her career, I couldn't even name another Jodie Foster movie if you asked me to. But with that into consideration, I thought she did such a good job with like the different types of uh like emotions or lack thereof at certain points that she was needing to portray, especially when like talking to Lecter about stuff. And when you can see it kind of, the wheels kind of spinning when she's figuring out like who's the kidnapper. Spoiler alert for anybody who also fucking hasn't seen this for some reason. But I thought she did a really good job of showcasing very well all these different emotions and her ability to connect with Hannibal, even though it's like to basically like the acting, like you definitely felt like she was really trying to make a connection with Hopkins. Like, and I just think her character did a really good job of that.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that, when he escapes in the end and her friend's like, "Aren't you afraid he's gonna come for you?" And she says, "No." He would think it would be rude for him to do so. It's like they built that bond to where he respects her. And then eventually in Hannibal, I know you haven't seen, you're not gonna see Hannibal, but the second movie, he actually hints he's in love with her.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Andrew
Mhm.
CBG Andrew was like telling me about it earlier, actually, and that's why I love him. He just tells me.
Yeah,
But he
so
was painting that picture of how it gets, and he said, what you did too, Yump, that it's not like a super great movie, but it's a good movie to watch it, especially as part of the series.
yeah, and, Brian just mentioned in the comments that the show is very good as well. I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot of
It is.
people who are into it have liked the film and the show. So Rox, since you've seen this movie, does this make you wanna explore more, like, serial killer movie genres or stories? Like, I know the new Dahmer series came out on Netflix, people were really into that. Is that something you like, this kinda opened up the gate to look into those stuff, or you kinda always are kinda interested in it?
I have been like reading up on the on Dahmer and Gacy. Gacy actually, the house he grew up in is like 10 minutes from where my dad grew up. And then who's the other one? The really handsome guy that like by
Al Bundy?
Bundy.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ted Bundy. I said Al Bundy. Ted Bundy.
yeah, I don't think he for what it is, but everybody's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I have watched those documentaries and all that. That's why I think I enjoyed this one so well. And I also really do like that show, Criminal Minds.
Mhm.
Being able to dig into that. And then even there's another maybe I'm just
There's a very good show on Netflix. It's only lasted 2 seasons because, David Fincher couldn't finish it, and there's a lot of people who are trying to get to come back, and that's Mindhunter.
Yes, that was so
Yeah,
good.
it's
That
very
was
good.
such a good show. Yeah. I really enjoyed because I had watched Criminal Minds. I made the mistake of when I was working in South Bend a few summers ago. I made the mistake of when I was living by myself watching Criminal Minds, and whatever specific season I was watching, there were a lot of women who were being victims and they lived alone. And I was like, oh, all right. Not good.
Yeah, definitely creep you out.
But yeah, to more to more answer your question more specifically, absolutely. There's something really interesting about how looking into the mind of people like this, and that's why the movie was something that I enjoyed because I had interest in that previously.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm right with you. I've spent lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of time doing research and of all those people that you just mentioned, and it's intriguing, and it's crazy, like in this movie where it's like this is an actor playing this role, but it feels like that's what makes a good movie too, is when it feels like it's almost like a camera, like, and it's real, but it's not. It's Anthony Hopkins, and I'm right with you. I thought one cool thing about the movie, really quick, is I thought at the end when the SWAT team goes to the wrong house, it takes place in Calumet City, Illinois, which is just a hop, skip, and jump away from here.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yeah, another film that, is serial killer and, like, genre is called Henry: A Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Good movie.
That movie is that's a definitely one-time watch.
Sure is.
It's with Michael Rooker. Very good movie, but very, very like gory, and it tells you like how sick the person is.
Like gory though, like do you see the gore, or is it just more gore in
It's
terms
more
of
like
dialect?
it's not as gory as Terrifier, but there's like it's kind of hard to watch in terms of the way they kill people. Like it's him and his friend, and it's kind of like off Henry Lee Lucas, which and his and Otis O'Toole, who were serial killers that went through. They went like on highway killers. They went through Wisconsin and whatnot. And like Henry Lucas was like one of the people that came out and said he committed all these murders, and they find out he was lying. But two prominent people. I think Otis Toole was actually one of the people that they fingered that killed Adam Walsh from the guy who does what's the name of the show, Tony? America's Most Wanted. John Walsh. America's Most Wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, his son was killed by one of them.
So they're
So
bringing that back.
No
Actually,
way, that's fascinating.
coming back this year.
but yeah, Michael Rooker, it's loosely based off them, but it's brutal, but it's like it's a good movie.
You know, if you can get an opportunity, I think maybe someone even said it when you were online and you posted about watching the movie, is Manhunter, which is like the movie that takes place. It was made in '86, but I really like this movie a lot. It's a really awesome, another portrayal of the whole entire,
Yeah, it's a prequel to this, and that one actually has a different Hannibal Lecter played in it.
Brian Cox from
Brian
Succession.
Cox, yes, is Hannibal Lecter. And if you want to go more modern with Anthony Hopkins again reprising, they did Red Dragon with him and Edward Norton. So it's basically the same movie, just different characters.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I was gonna, and I don't know if this is peeking into the future with what you had planned, but I was gonna ask, based off of this movie, with the exception of the movies you just shared, is there any other movies that you would be like, oh, you should watch this now after taking this in?
Yeah, I can have a list for you. I remember Sam, he's in the comments. He texted me about these movies that he wants to watch.
Yeah.
And I rattled off like 15 movies off the top of my head. But yeah, I can give you a list. But in terms of like this, like I think if you stick with like if you want to go through the Silence of the Lambs, like you can go back to Manhunter, you go to Hannibal, watch those and see how you feel about them. If you want to get more in depth, you can go to like I said, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. That one is definitely one that's going to be a little harder to watch.
You ever see Seven?
Yes, Seven's a great movie too.
You've never seen Seven? You would think you would like
to watch that, Rox.
That's why we're having this little segment.
I know. You're right. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in like excitement because it's almost I'm like when someone hears a band for the first time, I'm not like, you haven't heard it. I'm more like, you haven't heard it? This is
like awesome. Just surprised.
This is gonna be so cool. You're gonna love it.
Any movie that you guys want to see for the first time vicariously through somebody else, we can watch them together. Because unless Hugh Jackman's in it or it's Goodfellas, I probably haven't seen it.
So
and Secret Life of Walter Mitty, I really like that.
It's a good movie too. So this kind of plays into what Mailman Jack actually asked us, and he said, "What movie were you the highest when watching at the show?" For me, it was A Fish Called Wanda. So this was not at the show for me. This was actually in my dorm room, like senior year, and I wasn't high. I was drunk, but my buddy we were watching it was high. We bought a case. We used to do a thing every night. I used to work a lot of hours, and then on the weekends, me and my buddy who worked too, we would come to my room and we just like watch movies and buy a different thing of beer. We bought this Polish beer, 30-pack of a variety of Polish beer. So we were sitting talking, and like a couple of our friends would come over and whatnot. He got super high, and we put on Seven. For some reason, like we drank and talked so much that back then the old DVD players just kept replaying the movie after it went. I think I saw the scene, like the same scene, like 8 times. So that was like the most probably out of it I've been watching a movie. I've seen Seven before, but that for me was probably like the most out of it I've ever been. What about you, Rox?
I don't go to the movies enough or watch any movies really to like. It took me a long time to start partaking in the marijuanas. I was always a drinker, but now I'm reversing that in my life. So there are, to answer Mailman Jack's question, I can kind of spin it. A movie that I would like to see in this state would probably be the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Ooh.
That's like one of the random movies that I've seen. I believe that's a Wes Anderson movie. if I'm not mistaken. I don't know too much about his work, but it was so.
Yeah, it is a Wes Anderson movie.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it was so visually appealing, just with like the color schemes and stuff, which, from what I was told, is his gist in a sense. I think that movie is just very visually appealing to where that would be fun.
What about you, Tone?
Well, I don't know, there's you'll be here all night long. Let's see here. I'll go back to actually, you brought up the movie earlier. I actually came back I was at Ball State, and I came back into town with some friends, and we saw Constantine, and we were just pounding beers before, and all I know is I made it through the movie, and I don't remember how, but it was a good time. It was a great movie, and that was one that I had to rewatch because I just didn't remember even sitting in the movie theater. But that's some of the fun of it.
Definitely, yeah, it's pretty funny.
Oh wait, was she a great big fat person?
Yeah. So Rox, how many stars would you give this film?
Are we doing out of 5? Is that what they?
Yeah, let's go out of 5.
Okay, I'll give it a 4.5. That is because my threshold for what's considered a good movie is very low. But also this was a genuinely good movie. The 0.5 is just because I don't know what movie would be a 5. So when I figure that out. But this is a very good movie.
It's all subjective. Like whatever my 5 could be different from Tony's and yours. It's all what you like. I mean, somebody's 5 can be somebody's 1, or 0. Just depends on what you like.
To me, the same conversation we had about a week ago, and we talked about, the music you like is the music you like. It's the same thing with movies. Whatever makes you smile, and have a good time, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, that's why I never really understand the the movie critics. Toy Story could be a 5, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Shrek is a 5. Shrek is a hard 5. Being genuine with that, I think it's a very wonderful movie. It has a lot of layers, and that's where
like an onion.
Exactly. And a movie that we're going very off topic, and I apologize. A movie I would give a 1 is X-Men Origins Wolverine. Terrible movie. Good.
It's not.
It's not that good. The claws look very weird.
It's probably one of the worst of the.
That was a cash grab. I did want to ask you this because I have it written down. What did you think of the dancing scene when he gets naked in front of the camera and dances around?
Oh yeah, that's fun. Oh yeah, no, that was that. I have that song on my Spotify playlist, and I have.
Oh, that's awesome!
Quite some time actually. And it's funny because I've watched quite a few TikToks where they use that.
Yes.
And I never knew what it was from. And so when I put 2 and 2 together, I think because I had heard that before. But when it comes to all the quirky kind of stuff, Rocky Horror Picture Show is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, definitely.
Just the quirkiness, and even the queerness. Obviously, that's a whole nother conversation on how they portrayed the queer community, but more so being that the obscure stuff. I love shit like that. That's just how my brain likes some quirky and whatnot. So that scene, though not meant to be presented in a fun way, it's a pretty good scene. It doesn't
to me it was hilarious. I was just like, oh, it was so random. But
yeah, we just putting the lipstick on it.
Yeah.
But that reminds me of what movie was it? Billy Madison, when Steve Buscemi
Steve Buscemi puts it on his lips.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. What were we gonna say?
No, go ahead. So my wife put out this comment: "You guys smile sometimes, Tony." So we talked about this recently. When we first started dating, we went up to the Dells just for a weekend, and the guy who was running the hotel that we went to looked just like Buffalo Bill, legit looked like him and talked like him. And he was just weird. And Jen was up there talking to him, and she wasn't smiling. She's just getting his stuff. He's like, "You gotta smile sometimes." And like, she's like, "This guy's weird." And like, he knocked on her door and was like, "Housekeeping." And she's like, "Oh my god." It was just made me laugh because he looked just like Buffalo Bill. He was a nice guy, but it just made me laugh because she was like, that guy, he could have been a serial killer. And then now with Silence of the Lamb, she saw that and she's like, "Yeah, he looked just like him." So that's why she said that. You guys smile sometimes 'cause we're just talking about it.
No, that's good.
Oh my god, no, I thought you were talking about like the actual Buffalo Bill, like in history.
No. He looked like
I
looked like a
know,
character.
I know. That's yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, surprised we didn't leave. We were only there for 2 days, Sam. So, but it was a funny time. But Rox, thank you so much for joining us today for this.
Thank you.
I'm very happy you finally got to see this. Next time, do 7 when you come on. Sound
Absolutely.
good?
I'll do 7. Yeah, if that's what...
Sweet. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks, and we'll get you back on for the next 7. So, you got anything you want to plug?
Go read and watch all the Sadistic Penguin stuff. We're streaming on Twitter now and on YouTube, or streaming on YouTube simultaneously, which has been great. Please go read all my ass articles. They are the funniest ones on there. Like biasly, but just like, retweet, share, follow Tony's Hooked Up on Music podcast every Wednesday. He's got great stuff coming out, and that's it.
Sam said you were terrible and should feel bad. Balance.
Yes, that's our balance.
No, thanks, Rox. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much. See you, Tony. Thanks. Appreciate
Take care.
it.
Easy. All right, man. That was awesome. Always to see somebody learn or see their first movie that everybody else has watched. It's always a big experience. So thank you so much to Rox for coming on. When we started doing, the format of the show, she was like, "Oh, I've never seen a lot of movies. Maybe we could do something like that." And I always had that like in the back of my mind. If I came back and did the show, that we would put her in here to do something like that, because it's always fun seeing somebody, watch their first experience.
A couple weeks ago when we had the meeting, she talked about coming and talking about movies that she hadn't seen before, and right off the bat it clicked and it was pretty awesome. Yes.
Yeah. Vin says watch Pokemon Mewtwo. It's been on repeat here. Yeah, Pokemon has been really big in our house right now. That I'm getting sick of Pokemon.
I'm gonna watch that as soon as we're done here.
But Mr. Chalsa, let us know what we're getting into next with our big topic of the show.
Oh, what we are getting into tonight, folks, is just a movie amongst movies. We are getting into a classic. Okay, what I would deem to be one of the best movies of the 80s from my perspective. And as you stated earlier, one of the whole reasons we are here together tonight, and it is Big Trouble in Little China. Are we just kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here tonight? Just looking to really, really, really go deep into this movie that we enjoyed quite a bit.
Reminisce about our favorites. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of this movie, though. For everybody who knows me, Unforgiven is probably my favorite film of all time, but this is a very, very close second. To the point where anything with Big Trouble in Little China, I purchase that I can. I actually have a Simpsons related shirt on with Big Trouble in Little China. This is Big Trouble in Little Springfield. I have my brother was really awesome enough to get me this cool ass poster, and then I have the Funkos to go along with the characters like Jack Burton, and then I have Mr. Lopan, who glows in the dark if you put a black light on him. So I'm like a huge fan of the series. I watch it whenever it's on. It's another one of those movies that if I see on TV, I will definitely keep watching it. I know I drive my wife crazy watching it because I watch it all the time. I quote it. We quoted it together. It's just one of my favorite all-time movies, and it's a movie I just discovered watching it when I was a kid, just flipping through cable, and I happened to be on Cinemax at like 7 o'clock. And my dad was there with me. He's like, "You never seen this movie?" I'm like, "No," and I just got into it, and it's something I always liked.
That's how a lot of the people that I've met in my life have found this movie, is pretty much as you just stated. They've come across it like that. Myself, my dad showed me this movie. And he pretty much, he put it up on a pedestal very high, and he stated we're going to talk about it later, that it wasn't a big success right out of the gate at the movie theater. And to be able to see it in the movie theater at that time, it's kind of something that I think you should hold as like, if you have or were able to, very cool.
Yeah, for sure. But with that, Tony, let's get into the development.
In my thoughts, I use the technique of positive visualization.
So, Big Trouble in Little China was originally written as a script by Gary Goldman and David Z. Weinstein. They were two first time screenwriters who came up with this idea for a film that they said was going to be the Indiana Jones of the 80s, which is kind of funny. They said it was going to be just as good as Indiana Jones, just as good as Star Wars, and they came up with this script. Now, Goldman will go on to write Total Recall, which is another great movie, as well as a screenplay for Minority Report, even though it wasn't used, some elements were used from it. While Weinstein had kind of went out to obscurity, he didn't really get anything after this. But the film was inspired by the new wave of martial arts films as well. And it contains a lot of special effects and action in it, as you see when you watch it. The funny thing about the original script was this film was actually based and set in the Old West in the 1880s, where the main character would play a person who rode a meat wagon to feed Chinese railroad workers. It combined Chinese fantasy elements within the Western backdrop, and also the plots of some of the film had a horse stolen instead of the iconic truck that is stolen in this movie. What do you think about that, Tom?
Again, when you talk about that, when I first heard all about the Western, and it being set in the Old West, it gives the whole movie a whole kind of different vibe than what we're used to seeing. You know what I mean? It's not giving it that what we're used to, and I don't know if the movie would be the same. What do you think?
Definitely not. It sounds like, to be honest with you, the way the script is written, it kind of sounds like a knockoff Back to the Future without the time travel.
Yeah,
is what it reminds me of. So I don't know if it would have worked at all. Sometimes films can be westerns and sometimes they can't, and I don't think that's really a good backdrop for a western,
not
in
at
my
all.
opinion.
No.
But yeah, it definitely didn't work. So the script was pitched to a limited audience, with claims that again it would revive the western genre, which was fizzling at this time, during the 80s. And it was pitched to being like a blockbuster, like I said, so Star Wars or Indiana Jones. They submitted the script to Taft Entertainment Pictures, which is a division of 20th Century Fox. Executive producers Paul Monash and Keith Barish actually saw the script in the summer of 82. So Monash actually liked the script idea and he bought it. And he had them do at least one rewrite, but still didn't like the results that Goldman was giving him and Weinstein was giving him. So he went on to say, quote, "The problems came largely from the fact it was set in an out-of-century San Francisco, which affected everything's style, dialogue, and action. This pushed Goldman the wrong way and rubbed him the wrong way to the point where he was actually fired because they felt that he wasn't giving them what they wanted in terms of a script. This was then given over to Larry Gordon, who was the president of 20th Century Fox, who saw this, who was also Goldman's former boss and the one who fired him. He loved the script, but was well known around Hollywood, basically making big changes with films. And this film, he especially wanted to stick it to Goldman because he just fired him. So he wanted to make it and do it his own way. He loved the mystical aspect of the film and script, but hated the time period. And as you can see, it's kind of like a reoccurring thing that everybody doesn't like the time period. Also, being Hollywood, he wanted to make it less expensive and wants to erase the original authors, which is another petty, but hey, it's Hollywood. He went and brought in a very, very veteran screenwriter by the name of W.D. Richter to rewrite the film. Richter was known for writing Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1979's Dracula, Brubaker. He also directed a film called Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. Tony, I know you're a huge fan of that film.
Oh yeah, it's a good time.
I've never heard of that film until I
really
researched. No.
Let me tell you something. This is real quick, 2 seconds. When I'm in like 7th grade, I'm at my cousin's house. I see this movie on the shelf and I go, "What is this? I've never heard of this in my life." I did not watch this movie for the first time until like a year ago. It is awesome. It's got everyone Jeff Goldblum and Christopher Lloyd too, and man, I think you'd enjoy yourself. But yes, the title itself is ridiculous.
I would definitely check it out.
Yeah, please do. You'll have a blast.
Sam says, "What about spaghetti westerns?" That's one of the reasons that Jonah Hill did Django. They say that at the table when Jonah Hill was fat, Quentin Tarantino would told him his first lines were, "Hey, I got an idea of a spaghetti western," and Jonah Hill, being fat, was like, "I'm in." But no, it's just a joke made at him. But it's pretty funny about spaghetti westerns. Richter's script was written in 10 weeks. It updated the time of the story to a more contemporary time period, which is in the film. It kept the ghostly mystic stuff and kung fu, which was mostly the main story of the film. He cut it out, what was in there. So he cut most of it out except the David Lopan story. So he kept the mystic part and the kung fu, but as far as the general plot of the story, he cut it out and just kept the David Lopan as a main character. He used Rosemary's Baby as a template, meaning the foreground story in familiar context, rather than San Francisco at the turn of century, which distances the audience immediately, and just have one simple remove, the world underground. You have a much better chance of making direct contact with the audience, and that was his reason for doing that, is using Rosemary's Baby as a template. Both Goldman and Weinstein were very unhappy with the rewrite. I mean, I'd be unhappy too if I got fired. And the studio kept their names off the script. So the Writers Guild of America determined that written by credit should go to Goldman and Weinstein based on the Writers Guild Association screenwriting credit system, which protects the original writers. So that's why when you watch the film, they actually get a written by credit, and Richter gets an adaptation by credit, which kind of disappointed Carpenter because of the work that had gone into it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So with that, now they have a script pretty much written. The studio goes out and they're looking for a director. And here's Johnny. Carpenter was hired following the rewrite. Carpenter had been a fan of Chinese martial arts cinema for a long time, most of his life. And he actually credits 1973's Five Fingers of Death as an inspiration to this film. He wanted to mesh both martial arts cinema and mystic plot points while removing stereotypes from people. Carpenter then contributed some aspects to the script as well. He removed offensive material, which I think is great because he actually combed over Richter's script to make sure there was nothing offensive. He extended the role of Gracie Law, which is played by Kim Cattrall, and he made sure to make the point out that the real heroes of this film are the Chinese characters, not the white character. He wanted to use the Caucasian characters as a way of comic relief, which I thought was pretty well done. And we'll get into it more when we go into a deep dive of the film. But what do you think about that, Tony?
I mean, when you're bringing in someone like John Carpenter, okay, with those initials JC, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to listen to what this guy's saying, and we're going to make these changes. And and honestly, everything that I've seen on the screen and what this movie's about, I think they made the right changes and made the right choices. And if it was stuck like back we were just talking about a minute ago into something different than I had seen, I don't know if I could envision that. I just don't know if that, but knowing that he wanted what he wanted and he got upset that the people who didn't get the right credit like they should have, that just shows what a troubadour he was at the time too.
Yeah, definitely. And also Carpenter's coming off, The Thing. He's coming off Halloween, so he has writing chops. He wrote Halloween too. So it's kind of cool that he contributed that much into this film, which is a nice parts he extended. So this film actually came out during the time of The Golden Child. So when this was coming out, the development of The Golden Child was happening. Carpenter originally wanted to have a huge star to be in this film. He initially considered Clint Eastwood and Jack Nicholson, but they both said they were too busy for the film. Kurt Russell was considered an up-and-coming star, and at first was kind of hesitant taking the role of Jack Burton when he was offered it. Carpenter actually had to convince him. And while talking about this, Russell confessed on the DVD commentary that he was afraid of starring in the movie because he may have made a string of bad movies that flopped at the box office. And when he asked Carpenter about this one, Carpenter basically told Kurt it didn't matter to him. He just wanted to make a movie with them again, which I think is pretty cool because they've collaborated on Escape from New York, Escape from LA. This film, like
Elvis.
Elvis, yeah, Elvis, yeah, they've collaborated on a number of films, and it's I guess he just wanted to work with his friend, which I think, I mean, looking back, like, could you see anybody else playing Jack Burton?
No, and I think all those movies that you mentioned with Kurt in them, I mean, I don't see any of those movies without. I think that they work just so well together in these roles. And honestly, you could have put Kurt in, They Live even and made it a 5-pack, if he wanted that movie too, you could see him
Yeah.
being in that movie. Kurt is just he's like that clip that I posted the other day. He just seems like somebody just so cool and not willing to do something just to do it with a friend, and vice versa with Carpenter. He works with a lot of the same people.
Yeah, Kurt
Cool.
seems like a very, down to earth person.
Very.
For the role of Wang, Carpenter wanted to cast Jackie Chan due to his performance in Police Story, but received pushback from the studio that believed that Chan's English wasn't that great at the time.
Interesting.
So Jackie Chan was John Carpenter's first choice of playing Wang, but the producer Lawrence Gordon was highly against it, again due to the language barrier. But if you actually see his performance in Police Story, it's not really that bad. But this producer Gordon happened to see his performance in Battle Creek Brawl and The Protector, and he didn't think it was that great. Carpenter again pushed for it, and then eventually he asked Chan if he would do it. Jackie Chan actually turned this one down, and Dennis Dunn was cast instead. Can you imagine this film with Jackie Chan?
Oh, again, it's another, is it the Rumble in the Bronx, Jackie Chan? Is it the next Karate Kid? I mean, the Karate Kid, Jackie. It could have been good. But I just like,
I thought Dennis Dunn did a great job as Wayne.
Dennis Dunn, I really wish, and honestly, probably if this movie comes out in a different time, Dennis Dunn's got even more movies. He's in a couple more movies than this. He's even in another John Carpenter movie.
Mhm.
But he's again, he's only known really to me for a couple movies, and it's a shame because I think he does a really good job in this movie.
Yeah, and Carpenter actually saw Dunn in the movie Year of the Dragon and liked his work in the film. He met the actor twice before casting him. Dunn also had a background in martial arts. He trained a little bit as a kid, but he did a lot of Chinese opera as an adult to help him prepare for this role. The studio, however, pressured Carpenter to cast a rock star in the role of Gracie Law, Jack Burton's love interest, but Carpenter wanted Kim Cattrall, another unknown actress. The studio was not keen on the idea because at the time Cattrall was primarily known for raunchy comedies like Porky's, which is not a great movie, and Police Academy. She was drawn to the film because of her way the character was portrayed. She loved the fact that she wasn't screaming all the time. She liked the humor that came out of the situation with Jack Burton. So the crazy thing about this is Cattrall was still working for production of Broadway and theater. She left the set every day at 4:30 because she had to explain to the studio, "Hey, I don't really make enough money doing film, so my theater career is actually driving my income." And everybody's like, "Wait, you're in movies?" And she's like, "No, like my theater career is like what's helping me pay the bills," which I find really interesting. That you would think that you're in a big Hollywood film now, that's your big break, but for her it really wasn't. She was still working in theater.
Yeah.
And the producers that did not want her, namely Richter, did not like her in the film. And when he wrote the script, he changed her dialogue constantly. And this is where Carpenter stepped in and said, "No, I'm extending her role more. I'll take care of her dialogue. I want her in this film," which I think is like a good step, a good job by Carpenter getting her in there. Even though her role is not huge,
No.
she's predominantly, like when I think of Big Trouble in Little China, I think of Kim Cattrall with the green eyes.
Yeah. Well, later in her career, she had a little bit of trouble. Not really. I don't know. There's some drama on the set of Sex and the City.
Mhm.
So I often think, and she doesn't work with them anymore. And I often think of like how cool it was that, she's in this movie. You know what I mean? Because like you said, Porky's before this, Police Academy.
Mhm.
I think this movie though is the movie. I think the role is perfect for her, as you stated. And I can't see another actress in that role either. I
Yeah,
can't see
definitely.
Michelle Pfeiffer. I love Michelle Pfeiffer, or I don't see her in the role. Kim Basinger definitely not in the role. Like I'm trying to think of actresses of the time who could fit. Jodie Foster? No, you know.
No,
Oh yeah, there you go. Mailman Jack said
the
another really,
mannequin.
the
Yeah,
mannequin.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, the mannequin.
What's his name from Weekend at Bernie's? Andrew McCarthy. You know,
Yeah,
that's
Andrew McCarthy.
another one. Yeah, that's a. But again, you know, the casting at that time, I think Carpenter went on this run. Okay, it's like Halloween, The Thing. You know, I'm a huge fan of Christine, which falls in there too. In this movie and Escape from New York, and I think this is kind of like that peak for him to me. You know, and getting her in this role, I think just added to that.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm really happy she got in there. You know, like you said, she did have her issues with uh Sex and the City, but like her character's still loved by a lot of people. And apparently is more of a her and Sarah Jessica Parker issue. But
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah,
mean, there's drama in Hollywood all the time.
that is true.
But for this film's many fight scenes, Carpenter worked with martial arts choreographer James Liu, who planned every scene in detail. Carpenter said he wanted to use every cheap gag, meaning he wanted trampolines, wires, reverse movements, upside down sets. So basically, everything that's used in what you would think a Hong Kong or Asian martial arts film, which wires and whatnot, he wanted to use in this film to kind of pay homage and keep it authentic to the way it's done. And then finally, the role of Lopan was played by James Hong. And the reason he was cast was due to his ability to adapt to play different forms of a character. He was known as a good stage actor and a good film character actor who could play different roles of the same character. And that's why he really intrigued John Carpenter to be cast in it, which I think he's phenomenal in.
Oh, he's amazing in so many different ways in this movie. And as you stated, his ability to play different characters. Again, you know, his body of work too as an actor, and then to see him in this movie is just amazing.
He was just nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, and for a long time he was the president of like the Asian American Actors Association too, which means he's the man, you know, and that's what I think that's what I've always thought of him as. Is just, and again, the role of David Lopan to me, it is. I mean, yes, Kurt Russell's great and everyone's great, but if you don't have that good, awesome, you know, he's the catcher, he's the solid foundation that you need the team is relying on, I think, in the movie.
Yep, definitely. And then to close out our development segment, the soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack is by far one of my favorite things. I just still listen to it. I just listen to it. I worked out. I listen to it like all the time when I go on downtown on the train. I listen to it. The crazy thing is, Carpenter wrote the soundtrack just like he wrote the Halloween soundtrack. That was his theme. That's actually John Carpenter's theme. And his group, Coupe de Villes, sang the title song. So the Jack Burton riff that you hear from when they show this Pork Chop Express first coming, that's John Carpenter. Like that's from the mind of John Carpenter. Yes. Yeah, it's awesome. I love the soundtrack for this movie. It's something that doesn't get a lot of love because there's not a lot of words in the sound. Like there's not a lot of like lyrics. But as far as like the basic film score, I love it.
You want to watch the Charles Cry, you know, watch the credits roll at the end and listen to that song. It gets me every time. Even just before coming on tonight, I sitting at the dinner table, I went up to my big screen and I put on the video for the Coupe de Villes, and just watching Carpenter's face and just the lyrics, it really takes me back to a time that the songs just don't hit anymore. Like the song, like Big Trouble, it just really gets you. And the end of the movie, to hear that after watching this movie, man, it really, and the whole soundtrack, as you stated. But that's kind of what, not only was I ingrained in my mind that this movie was awesome, it was ingrained in my mind that the music that was in the movie, if it was different music or no music, I again don't know if I would like this movie as much as I do, because the music is that important to the movie.
I definitely agree. I think the music plays a crucial role in the film itself, along with the characters and the writing, but it definitely has a big crucial role to it. I can hear that riff and Dolly Mackey know it's Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Just top of my head. But with that, Tony, that closes out our development. So let's get into our film breakdown.
See the arc? He starts down here. He ends up here. Where's my arc, Paulie?
So with our film breakdown, take it over, Mr. Chelsea.
All right, so pretty much, okay, the plot of this movie, okay, it's I don't want to say the basic story of a truck driver, but Mr. Jack Burton is a truck driver, okay, and he happens to be in town to help his friend and rescue his green-eyed fiance from bandits in San Francisco. So pretty much they go into an underworld. And really what ends up happening is they end up facing an engine sorcerer named Mr. David Lopan, who we have been talking about, and who also requires that he needs a woman with green eyes to marry him, in order to be released from this century-old curse. Pretty much the movie is just right out of the gate, just like that. And pretty much as the movie goes along, as we will say here, it develops into these scenes that just make what I said even more explosive.
For sure, man. So the film opens up with Egg Shen, played by Victor Wong, who I love from Three Ninjas, and I also love from as Walter Chang in the film Tremors. Is another who actually names the graboids, and he also makes you take a picture with the snake monster for $5 for $10. Great character actor. He opens in the film in a lawyer's office, and the lawyer is questioning him, about basically what happened within the story, where, and then he asks, "Where is Jack Burton?" And he responds, "Would you leave Jack Burton alone? We are in debt to him." This scene is always iconic to me because of when he holds up his hands and he asks them to show him Chinese magic, and then the lightning comes out.
Oh yeah.
That was always a part that I thought was, like, as a kid, I was like, "Oh, it's really cool," and that this film is filled with special effects, like special effects galore is throughout this film. And to me, it's one hell of a way to start off a film. And then we cut into the iconic Pork Chop Express semi truck driving down the road, and we see our main character, Kurt Russell, eating a turkey sub while talking into his radio, just saying nonsense about if his dues were paid. Yes, sir, the check's in the mail. Going on and you listen to Jack Burton. It's basically him giving his best John Wayne impression, trying to just tell road stories while eating this big ass sandwich. That part always cracks me up.
Right out of the gate, he doesn't seem like a man who's scared. He's eating a sandwich in this big truck, and he's just and you're like, where are we heading? If you are just not knowing the plot of this movie, just seeing this, you're like, what is this and where are we heading? And I love that about the movie to start.
Yeah, I really like the transition part of this, how it go from the lawyer's office and then to him driving into town. He's also wearing sunglasses in the rain, which I thought was hilarious. But then we go into and he actually comes into Chinatown, where he plays Fantan with his buddy Wang. And that seems pretty cool to me because you see all the merchants around. You see them all kind of group up to see, them playing and having fun. And the set used for these opening scenes in Chinatown was created by the Thing production designer, John J. Lloyd. Kurt Russell and John Carpenter both remember the set for being used for a Janet Jackson video. And with Carpenter even remembering seeing Michael Jackson walking around looking at the set while they filmed. Michael Jackson was on the set. The Hell of Bubbles, the chimpanzee scene was sadly cut, which is kind of funny, is what he said. But that's kind of cool that they had the same production designer from The Thing actually on this film.
Yes.
And Tone, you actually did a great job when we were doing research for this. You actually got the script.
Yeah.
And just looking through the script, the detail of what they put in, is excellent. I really love everything about it.
Well, it's cool. It's cool again because, as you state, to come up with this whip smart script. It it seemed to take a couple hands to make it all come together as to one awesome piece. And just the dialogue right at the beginning, as you stated, is exactly that.
Yeah, and then we transition to the first meeting of the introduction of character Gracie Law when they go to the airport. Basically, Wang loses a bet against Jack, and to get his money, he has to go pick up somebody from the airport before he gives him his money for losing the bet. And we find out it's his fiance, his green-eyed fiance, Mao Ying, who he goes. So they go to the airport and they're waiting for her, and you see these, I would guess, these gang members, Lords of Hell.
Just the name.
Yeah, the name is pretty funny. But and the part made me, I don't know if you have a picture of it. It was one of the guys has like a pair of sunglasses and like just the slits.
Oh yes. No, I do not have that photo, but again, that was one of the things that I remember specifically, like my dad laughing at was this pair of glasses, which is like that were like that.
Yeah, just like I was thinking like how did he see out of them? Like there's like very little, but it's just like totally 80s. They go there to where they're trying to kidnap a girl that Gracie Law, played by Kim Cattrall, is picking up, but it's throttled by Jack Burton. He goes and intervenes. That's another part too. It's funny is when he goes in to intervene, and then the guy pulls out a knife, and then the guy pulls out like a billy club, and he's like, "Where'd you get that from?" He's backing away, and he gets like basically swept to the floor with a kick to his leg, and he falls on the floor, and then like they grab Mao Yang and take her away instead of the other girl because the other girl got away.
Great line in the airport right there is where he's like, it's Miller time, and he's like, you know what I say when it's Miller time, and then it just the ridiculousness of the banter back and forth in the script is key to me.
Yeah, and that's why there's so many memorable lines in this movie. Like, it's not really known in bigger circles about the lines that are said, but it has a lot of memorable lines in the film, which I love.
Well, to me, a movie like last week's Godfather and a movie like this, the script, is key to how good the movie is. Now, both movies are different types of movies, but they're both great movies, and that's why I think the script, really worked for this one.
Definitely. As we progress through the film, we go into Jack and Wang trying to retrieve his fiance. So they go to where the Lords of Hell are, basically their hideout. They drive through, and they almost hit Egg Shen on the way there, which is kind of funny because Egg Shen runs a touring bus of Chinatown. They almost hit him with their truck and pull into an alley, and that's when they meet the two gangs. One having basically a conflict. One's having doing a funeral ritual, and the other one interrupts them. So, what do you think about this scene, Tony? When they first meet the two gangs?
To me, this is where I think is amazingly awesome. Me and my buddies would pretend we would be doon doon doon,
yeah,
doon doon doon. Their faces,
yeah.
My dad would be like, "Look at their faces; they look so cool." And it was like dun dun dun. And especially the one dude who's in he's in Lethal Weapon, the one with the mustache that was in
he's actually in a lot of films. He's in
a lot
Rapid
of
Fire too with Brendan Lee.
A lot of cool movies, and I'm really upset at myself that I know millions of actors and I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But that being said, he does such a good job in his role that he plays. It's Jeff I don't know. I think that being said, really awesome.
Ali Young was his name.
Just the way has he been in anything recently? I'm curious because I haven't seen him in anything in a long time, but maybe he has because people's looks change, like as they get older, like he's cut his mustache and I haven't recognized him, but
I know he's
just awesome in so many. He was just awesome in so many of those 80s movies, but that whole scene to me was pretty epic.
Yeah, he's also a stuntman. He was in the most recent film he was in is Death by Midnight.
Oh, okay.
And that was in 2020, and he's actually looks like he's in a movie called The Gathering.
Oh, okay.
Which will be coming up. soon. But yeah, he's in like I said, he's in Rapid Fire, he's in Lethal Weapon, he's in Godzilla.
Oh yes, yes, he
Um,
is.
yeah, he's in a ton of like Last Action Hero. He's
Oh,
in
he's good in that.
what's another Showdown in Little Tokyo. Yes, he's in that movie too. I totally forgot he was in that movie. That's another one of my guilty pleasures to watch.
Well,
Showdown in
that's
Little
what's funny
Tokyo.
is all those movies you just mentioned. I'm like, those are our next 5 shows. And label like any movie is like I've seen them and they're
Yeah,
awesome and he's great in all those movies.
he's also Genghis Khan in Bill and Ted.
You know the way the just the scene is building is pretty
Mhm.
much what I enjoy because it's pretty much like and from Jack's perspective, you know, I feel as the viewer in your chair, you're pretty much like next to Jack in that truck too, because he's taking in what he's seeing and he's not playing a role of an action star in that part. He's playing the where am I? What is going on? And just the way they film that funeral scene. I mean, when you think about like right now, if we're at IMAX and that's up there and that scene, the way the camera work is and the way it looks, I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it still holds up to this day. My one of my favorite parts is the perseverance of the storms, how they come out, thunder busts through,
Yes.
an explosion, and then rain comes in, and then you see lightning from the sky just drop down and descend. It always cracked me up when they reveal their weapons.
Yes.
How thunder has the like the size, and then rain has these two like claw things with hands on them. And then lightning, he doesn't give a shit. He just like it looks like he has two forks on his hands, and he spins them to where it just screams. And another part that makes me laugh is when you're telling the anticipation of the fight between the two gangs. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that part makes me laugh. Like,
I know it's
but
great.
the whole anticipation of the fight, like they're about to brawl.
Yeah.
There's a Chinese standoff. He mentioned, Wang mentions,
Yeah.
and it always cracks me up that you see these guys like the Wing Kong have guns, and so do the other group. They have guns, and Jack Burton and his infinite wisdom pulls out this little ass knife from his boot. Like he just pulls it out like he's gonna do something. I'm like, I always thought like, what's he gonna do with that? Like he's gonna have to go.
That's where I think you get where I said in the
Mhm, yeah.
beginning, here's this confident man eating a sandwich in his
Mhm.
truck to,
Yeah.
well, maybe he isn't as confident as we thought he was. He's got a knife and he's like,
Mhm.
what's going on? But I'm going to try to look tough in this situation. And he does a good job at it.
Sam says, "I've never seen this movie, but I feel like I'm in it right now." Sam, that's if we're making you
You would
feel that
love,
way, I'm really
yeah,
happy about that. But you
yes,
would definitely love this movie.
you definitely would like this movie a lot.
Also in this scene, we see first. Well, it's not the first appearance of David Lopan. Actually, on the way to this area, you actually see a glimpse of him when they first meet a lady outside that's cutting a duck, or I think it's a duck. She's
Yeah,
basically cooking duck for dinner,
she is
and
cutting a duck.
Jack asks her about directions, and she closes the door.
Yes.
And as they drive away, there's a normal looking David Lopan just staring at him, smiling. But this is the first appearance of the ghost looking Lopan, who Jack actually hits with his truck. And then when he gets out of the truck to see him, he's like basically fine. And he opens his eyes and mouth, and they shoot out light that blinds him, and they run away. That part always made me laugh as well.
The part that made me, after right there, they go into that basement or whatever.
Mhm.
And there's one of the good guys are down there or whatever, and they're like, huh? And then he's like, oh, he's one of the good guys.
Yeah.
The fight literally ended a couple minutes earlier, and he's already down in the basement hiding from
Yeah.
the fight that happened. I thought it was pretty cool.
And that's the part that makes me laugh too, is that they're down there talking to him, trying to see what's going on, and then like somebody comes down the stairs,
Yeah.
and they just leave that guy. They just run away. They like bust
it.
through like the tunnels. That I don't even know. Like you don't know what happens to him, but like that poor dude got left.
That's
Uh,
true.
yeah. Oh man, I love this picture of
Oh, I know, it's
Victor
great.
Wong showing his belly. But then this goes into the transition into the great restaurant of the Dragon of the Black Pool. This is where we meet first meeting of Margot, the newspaper writer. Uh, Egg Shen eventually comes through here. Eddie Lee, who's the maitre d' of the restaurant, and of course the great Gracie Law.
And what the hell is Gracie Law doing here?
She can't get enough of me.
He wishes.
With Uncle Chu as well. I love this scene. One of my favorite parts about this scene is these two clips.
China is here, Mr. Burton.
Yeah, go ahead. All right.
The Chan Xing,
Yeah,
the Wing Kong. They've been fighting for centuries.
What does that mean? Huh? China is here? I don't even know what the hell that means. All I know is this Lopan character comes out of thin air in the middle of a goddamn alley while his buddies are flying around on wires, cutting everybody to shreds, and he just stands there waiting for me to drive my truck straight through him with light coming out of his mouth.
Jack, please.
That always makes me laugh because Kurt Russell's character, after going through this whole like running for his life, is in a kimono on the phone yelling, and he's yelling about his truck being stolen by the Lords of Hell, and he's trying to get his insurance company to pay for him, and he tells them this.
Look, I'm going to tell you about an accident. I don't want to hear act of God, okay?
And it just makes me laugh because he's supposed to be this masculine, like strong, and he's in a kimono, like just screaming on the phone. And while these other characters are being introduced, it's probably one of my favorite scenes of the movie. And it's so minuscule and it's like it's not part of the action. It just always makes me laugh. And just you could tell that Kurt Russell had a lot of fun with this role.
Oh, it seemed to be a blast. Like everyone looks like they were having a good time. And really that whole scene, even as simple as you stated, is the scene in the restaurant. It's a key scene. It's fun. It's fun. You know, and that's what the movie is overall. It's fun.
Yeah, Kurt Russell has one of the best cadences in film. He definitely does. In this film, like he actually based his character off John Wayne, which you can kind of pick it up when he talks, and I think he does. I think and he's very like he's funny without trying to be funny, which I think is great. Like his facial expressions, his line delivery. I think he does a really good job. Even in I saw him in Fast and Furious. I don't know, Fast and Furious 8, when he tells them they go through like a big accident and he's saved, and he tells Vin Diesel, "You sure really tried that beer, that German beer I bought," which is like that's a random line. It was pretty funny, but you know he's one of my favorite actors. Like even now, like I'll watch anything with he's in, even if it's a bad movie, because it's Kurt Russell.
I'm the same way. Kurt is Kurt.
Yeah, and then so after reconvening with the characters, we learn that Mao Yin's actually held at a brothel, to which they go and they try to rescue her from her. So it's Margot goes along with Eddie, Jack, and Wang to go rescue her. And this is where Kurt Russell is dressed in a horrible suit and glasses. And he tries to get her to get picked up by the brothel to pay some money for the girl with green eyes. And this is where we learn that the storms come eventually and kidnap her and take her to Lopan.
Great scene.
Yeah, definitely a great scene. It cracks me up. You know, I forget what's the name he uses, Tony.
Henry Swanson.
Yeah,
Henry Swanson's my name.
Yeah,
this is the way he looks and acts in that whole scene is great.
Yeah, it's he's so darky, and he was actually had like 100-degree fever at this time. He was actually recovering from the flu. So that's why he's sweating so much, but it just goes great with the role. And then when she's like when they're in their car before they let him out, and he's like, "Be confident, but don't be so confident. Be stupid." She's like, and Kim Cattrall says, "He is." like it's just like those great comedic timing with these characters. And you know, as we transition, when they find out the storms take away Mao Ying, and Kurt Russell tries to fight them, and basically gets his ass beat, they bring him back to Gracie Law's apartment, and this is where we find out that David Lopan is behind all of this, and they decide to go to Lopan's Wing Kong exchange, and they first meet Lopan there. So during the first meeting of Lopan here, what were your initial impressions of it, Tony?
I mean, pretty much it seems like, you know, everyone knows about this Lopan, but you know, Jack at this point in the story, because he's got to be like filled in on who Lopan is. Lopan's, you know, every appearance of Lopan in this movie is probably, I hate to say some of my favorites because the whole movie is some of my favorites, but again, I really, really, really enjoyed when he came on the screen at this point in the movie a lot.
Definitely. I love his first interaction with Kurt Russell's character.
Oh boy. Look, we came here to see David Lopan, all right?
Ah?
David Lopan.
You have succeeded, Mr. Burton.
What, you? I don't get this at all. I thought Lopan.
Shut up, Mr. Burton. You are not brought upon this world to get it.
Like just his like he's such a dick, but it makes me laugh because he comes in as an old man in a wheelchair, and they go through the reasons that he took Mao Yang. He tries to ask them questions, to even to the point where he just insults them.
Who are these people? Friends of yours, huh? Now, this really pisses me off to no end.
That's when he sees their people on his camera, his security cameras. He sees all the other people that are trying to come in and help. This scene always cracks me up for the way Lopan is portrayed. And his dialogue with Jack is just excellent.
And when I find her, I will marry her.
Never!
And I will be happy and my curse will be lifted.
You can go off and rule the universe from beyond the grave.
Indeed!
Or check into a psycho ward, whichever comes first, huh?
Jack, will you...
Jack, what? I'm supposed to buy this shit? 2,000 years and he can't find one broad to fit the bill? Come on, Dave. You must be doing something seriously wrong.
In all of movies, really quick, and all the quotes in life, if I could ever put myself as what I feel like in a situation, it would be me. I would be Jack right there. And what's his name would be like, Jack, try to stop me. And I'd be like, what? I'm supposed to buy this guy right here. I just love it.
I love the fact that he calls him Dave.
Yeah, Dave. Such a
but
slight.
When the other two people try to come and rescue him, Gracie and Eddie and Margot, the other three people, they try to rescue them as they're captured. They're actually tricked by Thunder. They're pressuring the security guard up front to say, let us in for a tour. They're saying that she's a newspaper writer. She'll make this place look bad. Thunder says he'll give them a tour, and he eventually makes them pass out and takes them to cells. They eventually tie up Gracie. And the reason that it's not shown in the film is because it was a deleted scene where she's giving them a lot of trouble running away from them. They tackle her and tie her up.
Okay.
Which I thought was pretty funny. And they eventually bring Eddie to where Jack and Wang are, who've gotten out of their wheelchairs. They're actually wheeled in wheelchairs, which is kind of funny. And this is where we get the iconic scene when they escape from this area, is where Jack Burton is pushed out the door and he falls into the wheelchair, and you see him screaming with his hands waving in the air, and he almost falls into the well. That's always to me, it's always an iconic scene when I think of this movie. It's something I always think of. It's just him just like screaming, waving his hands. He knocks down two other people unintentionally to get their guns, and before he hits the well, he pulls himself up and it falls down.
It's the scene that I'll send to Katie when I'm not having a good day and she asks me how's it going. It's the scene where he's like looking down and he sees the well before he pulls himself up. But being a kid, I mean, and I've talked about this with a lot of people, the amount of strength he would have had to have pulled himself.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
with, like,
He
it
was-
was like you had to been and then get out of that situation. But right before that, another one of my favorite lines is when Thunder sees them and he's like, maybe I could help you. Just like the way he sounds.
Yeah, his English is pretty
and
not that
like
great.
at that moment, the way his hair looks, he kind of looks like Van Damme for just like a quick
Yes.
second. A quick second.
I actually thought it was Van Damme when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
I mean, it's just the way he sounds. I like thinking that is for some laugh.
Yeah, he does a great role. I mean, even in the part where eventually, they take Gracie in because she has green eyes, they capture her.
Yeah.
During the escape, she's captured by a monster. After they free the girls, and Lopan sees that she has green eyes, and he takes her into that room and he goes, "Play your cards right, and you might live to tell about this." And I was like,
that line right there.
Yeah.
Play your cards right.
Yeah.
You live to talk about it.
Yeah,
We
his
would
like
say that
the way
all
he
the
talks,
time.
like his delivery is
I
great.
love the dialect in that. It's great.
Yeah, and the entrance of Lopan's headquarters, the production designer John J. Lloyd designed the elaborate underground sets. He recreated Chinatown with 3-story buildings, roads and streetlights and sewers, just for an iconic look. This was necessary for the staging of a complicated special effects. And like I said, this film has a ton of special effects and kung fu fight sequences. Um, it just made it really hard to do it on location. So when they built the set, it was easier for them to get these things filmed. This forced the filmmaker to shoot the film in 15 weeks and actually raised the budget to $25 million. I love the way the scenery is looked. Even the scene of Lopan's wedding with the god in the back that's in like green layout, neon green lighting. You have the skull in the back with the same thing. I love his. Even you saw this a scene earlier when they're all with the Buddhas and his walkway. That's pretty cool. And I love how like his warehouse is very old and like there's a bunch of spider webs and it just shows like it's like you could tell it's been there for a while, but it has these secret rooms. One of my favorite parts in the film is when Wang is saying he's gonna go to the Lopan's area before they get captured. And he's like, and they tell him, you can't just walk in there out like the wind. And he goes, yes, I can. And when they're in the elevator that gets to fill up with salt water when they're caught,
Yeah.
and Wang's screaming at Jack, Jack, you think they let us walk in here like the wind? And Jack just looks at him and goes, well, yeah, Wang, because that's what you said. They go underwater and they play that dun sound, and you see the bodies under the water, and they eventually get captured.
As a kid, I would think, wow, they held their breath. Like they held their breath great. I mean, they're just falling into these scenes perfectly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And with this, they find out that Lopan plans to marry the girls after they pass a ritual that makes them basically effective to break his curse of being a demon and basically becomes human again. So he has to marry one of the girls and sacrifice one of them. So that's what he's planning on doing. Another one of my favorite things is when they meet Egg, and Egg is actually talking about, Chinese culture in general and how they're confused.
Of course, the Chinese mix everything up. Look at what they have to work with, huh? There's Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoist alchemy and sorcery. We take what we want and leave the rest. Just like your salad bar.
I know you love that line, the salad bar line.
The best.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts when he's explained to Uncle Chu about it. And then, they start to get their gang together to go to the final battle of the Lopan's place. I always love the fact that they bring back the good guy gangs and they bring them down, and they have them do the basic, do you have any guns? Do you have any weapons? And he shows them the gun, says, you like this one that reminds you of Dirty Harry. that one always cracked me up. I think Victor Wong is so good as a character actor. Like, so
always awesome.
Needs more recognition than what he got. It's kind of sad that he's not known more to wide audiences like we do know him.
Yeah.
But definitely, like, I eventually would love to do a Tremors breakdown because he's in that movie as well.
I would do that in a second.
Yeah, but this whole scene cracks me up.
Any of them savvy English?
Hey, man, who is this guy?
All right. You got any guns?
Well, not against Lopan, but here's one for you. Make you feel better, like Dirty Harry.
I'll stick with these. You coming with us, Egg?
Yeah, just that whole like dialogue, and then they go into the sewer, and they're walking. And he says, "What is this, water?" And he's like, "No, it's blood from the Black Earth." He's like, "You mean oil?" He's like, "No, it's blood from Black Earth." And as they're walking, you see like he's talking about how when the gods were unappeased by people, and the many earthquakes happened, and a lot of people were killed, and a lot of unnatural people were released to do acts that shame the gods. And then they're walking by this like hole in the wall, and this big fucking monster comes out and eats this guy. It's just so random. And then he throws like something at it and it explodes, and he says, "You come out no more." It's just like, it's just so random, but it's so cool to me. As a kid, I love that part.
You brought up just a little while ago just how awesome Victor Wong is, and in that whole scene when they go into the elevator.
Me too. I got a very positive attitude about this.
Good, me too.
Yeah.
Just the way, like, I would remember, like, they're all there, and then after that scene, they're all like,
Yeah.
And they're all just like ready to go down there. And then they see the thing in the wall. And you
Yeah.
imagine that they're like, now Jack has been in town and he's now experienced a lifetime's worth. It's great. Three
Yeah.
Ninjas, yes.
For real. Yeah, Gen 3 Ninjas. Yeah. Definitely, like, it's one of my favorite. Like, I love the whole back end sequence, like the trail end of this movie because the buildup is nice. I love, there's a lot of comedy in this film, like a lot of it. The Lopan fight, when they have everybody go and rush to save them, they have the big brawl in, the wedding ceremony. That's always awesome. The character, like the eye monster that appears, the puppeteer, that took so much work. It was one of the most difficult effects of the film. It had to be powered by several puppeteers and dozens of cables just to control its facial expressions, and it was really done well for the 80s.
Where's it at?
It was, awesomely done. I love that aspect. I love like I said, the battle between Wang and Rain when they do the sword fight. I really love the battle between, Egg Shen and Lopan when they do
Oh, yes.
when he basically has a stone that challenges Lopan and Lopan uses his ring. And they had this big battle to where it comes out like a Shogun battle where two samurai are fighting. Yes. That scene is awesome. And one of my favorite parts is as Lopan is controlling his character, he's like doing like a video game controller.
Okay.
Which always cracked me up. And it's just I just love every aspect of it. I can keep saying I love this movie, but it's just like every aspect of it is just fun to me. It has so many good roles. So many good scenes in it. And eventually you go into the more famous role where they chase Mao Yin, Thunder, and Lopan up the stairs into the elevator. And we see the monster come out and Gracie kicks him in the nuts as he attacks Jack.
That monster's cool.
Yeah, the monster is cool. Actually, that monster kind of reminds you of this movie called Rawhead Rex. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh, yeah.
It looks just like him to me. But they go up and they eventually Jack and Lopan have a showdown while Thunder is being distracted by Wang. And we hear the famous lines of, who Jack Burton is.
You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this? Who? Jack Burton. Me. Old Jack always says, what the hell?
Yeah, it's just so
music,
random.
the music in that scene too. If that music, I was just sitting here as you played it, imagining if that music isn't in that scene, it adds to it, because it's like going off in the background while they're doing the dialogue.
Yeah, it plays so well. And eventually, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, Lopan gets killed as he throws a knife towards Jack, and Jack catches it and throws it back and says,
It's all in the reflexes.
And when he falls, Thunder, seeing this, is so distraught. He basically inflates himself into this gigantic, like, monster full of air and explodes, which I always thought was an awesome scene. Still looks great today. I actually watched on the DVD, the newer DVD that came out, they have a scene that actually shows like them acting out that part without music in it, and like the way it looks with just them standing there without the cinematic view of it, it looks awesome. And then they run away and they're like, yep. Yeah, that whole scene where it explodes, like it's awesome. That to me is like this movie has everything,
we would get down and even think about like when he explodes there all the way, like his stuff looked like on the ground. It didn't look, I don't know what, it wasn't human. Like the way like it looked like lettuce, and like the way the graphics were too was even in the fight in the alley earlier. It wasn't like they were using a lot of blood. It was cool because it was very kept a certain way. I like that about the movie.
Definitely. Yeah, that's another thing too. There's not a lot of blood in, but it's like at action, but you don't need, like, that just shows you don't need blood for all your action films.
No.
And then we go into the ending as Lopan is defeated. The heroes go back to the Dragon of the Black Pool restaurant where Egg Shen says his goodbyes and says he needs a vacation. And Jack gets back into his truck of the Pork Chop Express, and we close out with the monster actually in the back of his truck as he's talking on the Pork Chop Express. One of the cool things about that he talks about is he says, now take his advice on a dark and starry night. when the lightning's crashing and the thunder's rolling and the rain's coming down, basically paying homage to all the three storms he just fought, which I thought was pretty cool. It's a good ending. It makes you think, oh, is there going to be a sequel? And we can talk about that coming up later on. But like the closeout of the film to me was just awesome. It was a fun ride from beginning to end for me.
It's nothing better said than what you just said. To me, so many times with friends, and we will do this a lot of times when we've had this great time and we have to part. The line that is just, to me, it's the one that grabs my heart, because you feel the sentimental of that. Then he's in the truck saying what you say, and then that song hits, and it's like sadness, kind of happiness, and then awesome music, and it's like a ride out of this great movie. So yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, we really shook the pillars of heaven.
Didn't we, Wang?
Yeah. I love this film is like really, really close to my heart. I can see, like, I know we went into a deep scene by scene film, and the reason we did that for this particular film is because there isn't really a lot in development and in fan theory. So we wanted to group into like the actually going through each scene in the film in a more detailed way of a film breakdown. But to me, it's totally worth. If you haven't seen this film, I highly recommend you guys check this one out.
Definitely.
But with that, Tone, let's get into our critical reception.
You know that fat cocksucker says I look like the Shah of Iran?
Who does? Tony. I never got that at all.
So with the critical, oh, there you go. There's the monster that we were talking
what
about.
I was trying to find for earlier. I messed up the thing.
That's
Yeah,
all good.
that's it.
That's good. Yeah, awesome. Like just the detail in it is awesome.
Yes.
So this movie had a $25 million budget, but it only made $11.1 million at the box office. Reasons being can be attributed to the movie not being marketed as well as promised. The film was also released in the midst of James Cameron's blockbuster film, Aliens. On a DVD commentary for Big Trouble in Little China, Carpenter and Russell discussed the possibilities for the film's disappointing gross. It's probably because the movie was released without aliens and also the poor promotion. When the film was released on VHS, it helped boost the sales. Like Carpenter's A Thing, now regarded as the greatest horror films ever, one of the greatest horror films ever made, Big Trouble slowly began to find fans via home video. By 2012, it was a full-fledged cult phenomenon. A Gangnam Style parody video called Lopan Style went viral, which is awesome if you guys haven't seen that. And in 2015, the company Funko released a Big Trouble figures that I just showed you earlier. And later this year, Boom Studios will publish 2 books of the film: The Official Making of the Big Trouble in Little China and The Official Art of Big Trouble in Little China, which was released in 2015. This film had basically a cultural phenomenon. It basically became a cult classic, and it made its money back to the point where this movie was made almost 40 years ago, and we're talking about it today as one of our favorites.
No, I was saying you're so awesome. I can't believe I'm still sitting here talking about this movie, because it's been something since I've done over 100 episodes of different. This has been the goal that I've been excited for. So I'm just excited. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And then, a video game for this film was released in 1986 on the ZX Spectrum, the Commodore 64, and the Amstrad CPC. There's another reviewer goes by the name of the Spoony One, aka Noah Antweiler, who actually is a huge fan of this film, and he tries to incorporate Big Trouble in Little China in all his videos he does. He does, like, as a tribute, he actually does the opening scene as Jack Burton, going through the Pork Chop Express, and does a review of the game, and the game is very bad. But he does a review of the game, so that's something you guys can check out if you want more content. There's a card game that was released in 2016 by Upper Deck. Also, a comic book series released in 2014 by Boom Studios that was actually written by Eric Powell and John Carpenter. And they also had the partnership for a board game by Everything Epic and Flipside, which I've been looking for, but it's very, very hard to find. The original one, Jack Parker and Shimmy and all. Yeah, sorry, that was a slip. So this all brings us to, this movie is so popular, why wasn't there a sequel made? Well, in 2015, The Wrap reported that Dwayne Johnson was developing a remake to star as Jack Burton and produced this film with $7 Productions film studio. Ashley Miller and Zach Stentz were hired as screenwriters. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Johnson expressed interest in having Carpenter involved in the film. Carpenter responded saying, "It's very early in the process. I haven't spoken to Dwayne about any of this. I'm oblivion about the remake." Okay. Going forward, when this came out that Dwayne Johnson was remaking this film, fans went nuts. They're like, we do not want The Rock to portray Jack Burton. We do not want him to remake this film at all. And I felt the same way. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, it just doesn't excite doesn't I'd
Yeah.
be more excited for Wyatt Russell, his son, to step into like a younger Jack Burton than I would be.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would love that. And and by 2018, August of 2018, Seven Bucks Productions president Hiram Garcia came out and said, "Oh, no. We're not gonna do a remake. We're gonna do a new film, but no intention of replacing Kurt Russell by recasting Jack Burton. But we'll make a follow-up film to the original." Carpenter, being John Carpenter, this is why I love him, went out and said this. They wanna make a movie with Dwayne Johnson. That's what they want. So they just picked the title. They don't give a shit about me and my movie. That movie wasn't a success. Kurt Russell was asked about this over the years, and this just shows you the type of person Kurt Russell is. He came out and said, Dwayne Johnson as Jack Burton. This is when they were talking about the possibility of recasting. He's like, "Hey, I'm sure he'll come up with a good take on it. I got no problem with that. Movies are movies. You throw the dice and see what happens. At the end of the day, all that matters if is to make a movie that holds up. And John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China holds up." End quote. Now, fasting forward to 2023, last year, December, we got news from Kurt Russell that they asked him, "Would you be in the remake?" He had two requirements. The first being he's open to reprise his role as Jack Burton if the script is better than the original.
Hmm.
And the second being that John Carpenter has to direct.
Oh, yeah, well, that would be incredible.
And he closed it out saying, "You never say never. I mean, if anybody were to write a great script that was better than the first one and it had something new to say, I don't know. We can slap John Carpenter around a little bit and say, 'Come on, John, let's do this.'" Carpenter hasn't directed a film in almost 20 years. I would love, he's getting up there age to celebrate his 76th birthday, so happy birthday to you. I would love, as his kind of like his riding off in the sunset, him directing a new one with Kurt Russell as Jack Burton, but only if the script was good. I don't want it to be a cash grab. I want it to be close to the original material. I want it to be like in that essence. Like, what about you?
I'm with you. Again, when you got the original players, I'm more interested to see what we're going to get than if we're going to get The Rock and, I don't know who else directing. So yes, I would be interested, but I don't know if some of this is just talk. I mean, it would take a lot to get the production off the ground, I would think, and all of that. And when Carpenter, it's been a little while since something of this level would be done and directed and produced by him. So it would be curious to see, but I would definitely be interested.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the reasons why I'm like, it's kind of like late now. He's already at an older age.
That's what
I
I
don't
mean.
know.
And
Yeah,
some people I don't know, Kurt's just saying that because that's what you would say, I
Mhm.
mean, that's what I would say. That's, but
Yeah. In terms of reception, like I said, this movie was not accepted by Asian audiences at first due to the belief of a white savior role. Carpenter has pushed back on this due to presenting that Wang and the other Chinese characters are the real heroes. And this is something that, like, I read essays on this, I watched videos on this through the years because I'm against a lot of like, if you know me, I'm against stereotypical portrayals of cultures. I think that I would like the person of that ethnicity to play that role if possible. In this sense, I don't think it's anywhere near that, in my opinion. This is also my opinion. Reason being because Jack Burton is a white Caucasian male, yes, but I don't see him as the hero of the film, and that's why I love it so much. He's kind of an oxymoronic hero. He's a man who's, I would say, he's very, very brawn and strong and courage, but he's very stupid. Like, even if you look at the scene where they go into the big fight at the end, and they come out of the elevator and they're all screaming to they're all screaming to get riled up for the battle, and everybody's screaming, and he shoots the gun in the air and a piece of brick falls on his
Oh
head.
yeah.
He's basically laying down while all the other characters are having these epic battles. And then while transitioning to this, his gun gets broken and a soldier comes over with a bunch of armor, and the only reason he ends up killing him is because he falls on his knife, and then another 5 minutes goes by of him trying to push the person off his body to get to the fight. Even the scene when they're in the warehouse and Wang is basically beating the shit out of all these guys, and he tries to pull his knife out, it goes to the right, and by the time he comes back and jumps down and says, "Ah," everybody's down already. Wang already took care of him. Like,
Yeah,
just
no.
scenes like that just shows that he's more there for comedic relief, who thinks he's, like, the main character, but he really isn't. And that's why I think, like, it's not really a white savior role in cinema. What do you think, Tony?
I'm with you on everything that you said there. That's pretty much that whole scene where the things fall on his head when he shoots.
Mhm.
That's pretty much what I think of. Like the whole movie, he's a step behind everybody else. Even Wang Chi and everybody. He's
Mhm.
almost there as stated to keep everybody positive and to be that final push to get through the door. But everybody else is doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I think and I mean, this is also my opinion, so let me if you disagree and you have,
Yeah, no,
constructive,
I
like,
will trust me.
please,
I will.
please. Yeah, just please, and, anybody in the audience listening to us in the pod or in the comments, let me know. It's just the way I felt watching it, and I know I read a lot of articles on a lot of, people of Asian descent that have said, they kind of come around to this aspect, and I think that's what Carpenter was trying to do. He wanted to get rid of stereotypes, which is why and I think he pays good homage to martial arts film. As you know, I'm a huge fan of martial arts films. I think this has everything in it to brought to American audiences before, the big films of Rumble in the Bronx, Dragon with Bruce Lee, before those films became prominent, like the big Romeo Almost Die, the first Jet Li film. Those films like brought more mainstream to martial arts in America. Before we had what American Ninja,
Yeah.
Bloodsport. I mean, is a
Michael
great film.
Dudikoff. Yeah.
Yeah, a Kickboxer. Those were like okay films, but not to the magnitude of the ones that would
No.
follow. Um, but in terms of critics, Roger Ebert liked the film, didn't like the special effects, but he still gave it a thumbs up and 2 stars. Gene Siskel hated it, and I watched his review recently, and it's due to the special effects. And he said that there's just too much special effects, and I'm thinking like, well, the film is based in mythics and, it's about magic. You would have to have
Man,
special
wait till
effects.
they saw what was coming within the years ahead. Like, because
Yeah.
this movie has like barely any compared to so many movies that, you know.
Mhm.
But
It
it's
it just it's just strange, man.
I would think if they were to watch this movie today for the first time, they would give it more to 2.5 to 3 stars.
I think so too. I think, they would have a different view on it. But I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, it's, what their views were in the past. According to James Hong, this is one of the bigger cult films out there. Production stills that he sees sold at comic book conventions and meet and greets have outsold movies like Blade Runner, shows like Seinfeld, and even Balls of Fury, which is also James Hong's in there as well. Um, James Hong's also in Big Bang Theory as the Chinese restaurant owner, which is always
Wayne's World too.
Yes, he's in Wayne's World too. Yes, he's Cassandra's dad.
Yeah.
Um, but how did this movie inspire thing? What did it inspire anything? And the crazy thing is, the Marvel supervillain, the Mandarin, was modeled off the appearance of David Lopan.
Oh.
Lightning, as most people know, inspired the character Raiden from the Mortal Kombat series. Ed Boon has come out and said that it was a big major inspiration to the look and feel of the character. Also, the character of Shang Tsung was actually inspired by Lopan. If you look at the first Mortal Kombat, Shang Tsung is actually an old man, and he looks a lot like the old man David Lopan. Um, Takia Wadahidi, I always mess up his name. Sorry about that.
I know I do that too.
Yeah, yeah. He said the movie was an inspiration for Thor Ragnarok, and I can totally see that as well.
Yeah.
He plays
Me
Sith
too.
movie. He does. Yeah, James Hong's the man. But in terms of film theories or fan theories, I only could find 2 that were actually kind of interesting. And one of them is that Gremlins and Big Trouble in Little China are set in the same universe. due to the mythical monsters and of Chinese magic. That's kind of a
Oh,
far-fetched
that's right,
theory.
because of the yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't think I was like, "How could this be?" But going
Mhm.
into that alley, into the basement, you could make
Yeah.
an argument that
Uh,
that's
and they're
yeah,
both in the San Francisco area,
yeah.
kinda like so that's
I
kinda
like
like
this one, I like this one.
yeah. And then the other theory is that the 3 storms are linked to Lo Pan, not more than just his henchmen, being that if Lo Pan had become flesh, they would have solved their curses as well if he would have started ruling the world, which I thought was very interesting, and I could totally see that.
Yeah.
But those are the only 2 good fan theories that I saw. Um, this film, like, is pretty straightforward in what story it tells. It's kind of to be taken not to be taken super seriously, but what's for entertainment value. But that's pretty much our wrap up of Big Trouble in Little China. My man, tell him, what is your favorite scene of the whole movie?
The whole favorite scene of the whole entire movie is probably, that scene when he's you're gonna ask me every single minute of the day, and it's gonna change, but for some reason, the Henry Swanson scene sticking in my head just because he looks just a wreck, and you saying because he was sick in the back, that was one thing when doing research I was unaware of, was that he wasn't feeling well, and now you can definitely tell that in that scene. And I like stuff like that, those little nuggets like that. How about you? What's your favorite scene?
My favorite scene is actually the opening of him driving in a truck. I think it sets the mood for the film. It shows what kind of character he is. Uh, and I think, it's just iconic to me. I always love like I said it before, I love the fact that he's eating this big ass sandwich while he's
Yes.
talking into his radio. It always cracks me up.
Well, that probably, now that you say it like that, I would go the same reasons, but I would go the ending. Because it shows that, him and Wang Chi, they say their goodbyes, he gets in the truck, and then that song hits. So it's like a bing, boom, boom, and then at the beginning, I feel like what you say too, you're getting that introduction too, so I definitely see that.
Yeah, so those are our favorite scenes from the film. If you've seen the film, I definitely recommend you let us know what your favorite scenes are. Any tidbits from the film that you liked, anything that we missed, let us know at the show pod on Twitter or at our handles Lil Yumper or at the Sugar Baggy. We still have 2 more segments, but not too much long ones that we're gonna get to. But man, I love talking this movie with you, Tony. We can talk about this for 4
Yeah,
hours.
I mean, it'd be 7 in the morning, and our
Yeah.
wives are like, "What are you doing?" That's it. Yep.
Yeah, but with that, Tone, let's get into what, my friend, is going to be coming soon.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Coming soon.
Próximamente.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
So, Tone, what's coming soon, my friend?
We got coming up another really, 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 really I deem awesome movie, The Usual Suspects, loaded with great performances, and we're gonna dig deep into this movie and have a good time talking it. I'm pretty excited.
Yes, one of my favorite films growing up. I still watch it to this day. Another film that if it's on, I will definitely watch it. A great all-star cast of actors, definitely a great story, and a great twist ending. So this is going to be a fun one to get into.
Could be a lot of good time.
Yep. So check out that. We'll be back for next Friday at 8:00 for this film. And to close out our show, we're going to go with our closing segment, the Sugar Baggy's Pick of the Week. The Sugar Baggy's Soundtrack Pick of the Week.
Hello, tonight's soundtrack pick of the week, and I deem another movie that I think I would definitely do a whole episode on. It is the one and only Judgment Night soundtrack. Awesome for many, many, many different reasons. For me, amazingly awesome. The togetherness brought together by, the heavy, and the hip hop coming together and doing that. Also, in high school, friends of mine had a band, and they would always play this track right here. Was one of my favorites. You're just another victim. You're just another victim, kid. And that's Everlast right there with Helmet, and they're doing the Just Another Victim song. But Soundtrack's awesome, leads to lots of cool things. What do you think? Do you ever listen to this movie or sound? I'm watching the movie.
So Swole and I are big fans of the soundtrack. I love the movie. Emilio Estevez. I think this is probably one of the better soundtracks. Helmet's also on another soundtrack, the Crow soundtrack.
Oh, they sure are.
Yeah, I love the mixture of music in this film. I think it's probably has like the movie itself is not the greatest film. It's good, it's enjoyable, but the soundtrack is what makes it for me. Like I loved it.
It's that 90s period film where it's a bygone era picture that I don't know would be done again. And it's, like as you stated, it's not great. It's watchable on a Friday night with some friends, and
Definitely no.
but the soundtrack though, it for me, it just seems to have lasted over time and just kind of, I think it's really good.
Brian thought the movie sucked, but incredible soundtrack. Yeah, I don't think it's like a great movie, but it's entertaining to me.
See, it's back to what you said earlier at the very beginning when you were like, well, how messed up are you watching this movie? Like, this is a movie where you'd have 4 or 5 beers and you're laughing at Emilio Estevez and you're like saying that Dennis Leary isn't the greatest comedian and you're just kind of picking at it, but you're enjoying it. That's kind of how I look at it. It's no Big Trouble in Little China.
No. But it is
oh, this is right here. Is this what we're doing tonight?
He's trying to poke
what we're doing tonight.
He's trying to poke the bear, Tony.
Oh, he's poking one. No,
for those listening, he says it's still better than Natural.
You know what? I will say that right now, I would definitely much rather watch Judgment Night after this than The Natural. So yes. Not better, but yes. Both out with anger.
Yeah, but that's our show. Thank you guys so much for watching. Those who stuck with us, be sure to check us out at sadisticpenguinstudios.com, where we have blogs, reviews, collections. We have music reviews, a lot of great work stuff being done there by It's Getting Drafty, by Tony with his other pod, The Hook Up on Music, which is an awesome podcast to watch. Also, he has his shortcuts, which are album cut videos that you do, Tony. They're awesome. I watch those whenever I get a chance. I actually stack them up and watch them because they're like, I do them while I'm at work because you explain everything with the movie and I listen to them, then I listen to the album. So I love the whole music talk. We will be back next week at 8 p.m. to go over the usual suspects. And we will also have a new segment with another special guest that we're going to be doing every other week in between the Roxy segment. So let us know what you guys think about the new format. I'm very excited. I love the past 2 shows that we've done, Tony, and I'm really happy and excited to do more with you, my friend.
Me too. And you know what? As we were stating earlier, and like I will always tell you, this is one of the things that I always hope to tell you right here.
We really shook the pillars of heaven, didn't we, Wang?
No horseshit, Jack.
No horseshit.
In reality, man, tonight, like I've just said, I'm not joking. I've sat in the seat for multiple hours doing quite a few podcasts, and tonight was definitely one of the funnest times I had. So thank you so much, my man. Great time.
You, my friend. Thank you.
Great time.
All right, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.
You too. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?